Melania Trump just shut down the media's bias in real time. This moment is sending shockwaves through the political world. They thought they could corner her. They thought she would stay silent. But what happened next left everyone speechless. In a heated live interview, a liberal host tried to ambush Melania Trump with a loaded question about Donald Trump. The goal? To humiliate her, to force a reaction. But instead, Melania turned the tables in a way no one saw coming. Stay with me, because this moment is sending shockwaves through the political world. It was supposed to be a routine sit-down interview, an opportunity for Melania Trump to discuss her latest projects, philanthropic efforts, and perhaps even her personal insights on life beyond the White House. The network had promoted it as an open and thoughtful conversation, a rare chance for viewers to hear directly from the former First Lady. But the moment the cameras started rolling, it became clear. This wasn't an interview. It was an ambush. The host, a well-known liberal commentator with a reputation for aggressively grilling conservative figures, sat poised, ready to pounce. Their career had been built on exposing what they called right-wing hypocrisy, and tonight, their target was Melania Trump. The audience, initially expecting a civil discussion, quickly sensed the tension in the air. The host's smile was tight, their tone just a little too sharp, their words dripping with thinly veiled contempt. Melania, however, was composed. Dressed in an elegant yet simple outfit, she sat with the grace and quiet confidence the world had come to associate with her. She was used to the media's games, used to being scrutinized and underestimated. The liberal press had spent years crafting a narrative around her, painting her as distant, passive, or simply uninterested in politics. But tonight, she was about to shatter that image. The host began with pleasantries, standard questions about her post-White House life, but it didn't take long for the real agenda to emerge. Within minutes, the conversation shifted. The questions became sharper, laced with insinuations. They weren't interested in her work or her initiatives. They wanted controversy, a soundbite they could spin. Then came the moment. The host leaned forward slightly, their voice taking on that unmistakable tone of feigned curiosity. Melania, given everything, your husband's legal troubles, the controversies, the way he's been portrayed in the media, do you ever regret marrying Donald Trump? The air in the studio became electric. The question wasn't just disrespectful, it was designed to humiliate her, to force a reaction. A murmur rippled through the audience, some visibly shifting in their seats. Even the production crew, seasoned professionals used to high-stakes interviews, seemed momentarily taken aback. But Melania? She didn't flinch. She didn't break eye contact, didn't let a single flicker of emotion betray her composure. Instead, she gave a small, knowing smile, one that sent a clear message. I see exactly what you're doing. For a moment, the host seemed to think they had won, that the question had caught her off guard. But what happened next would leave the entire room stunned. The tension in the room was undeniable. The host's smirk lingered, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for, the carefully orchestrated trap they believed Melania Trump would walk right into. The audience sat in stunned silence, some exchanging glances, others whispering in hushed voices. Even the camera crew, seasoned professionals accustomed to high-pressure interviews, seemed to pause for a split second, waiting for her reaction. Melania didn't react immediately. She didn't blink, didn't shift uncomfortably in her seat, didn't offer the kind of flustered response the host had likely been hoping for. Instead, she exhaled lightly, a poised and deliberate motion, then tilted her head ever so slightly as if she were examining the question itself, rather than the person who asked it. The corners of her lips lifted just enough to form a subtle, knowing smile. The host, misreading her silence as hesitation, pressed forward. I mean, it's no secret that your husband has been at the center of some of the most divisive moments in modern politics. Many would say that the allegations, the legal troubles, the controversies, well, they speak for themselves. So I ask again, do you regret standing by him? A few chuckles rippled through the crowd, some out of discomfort, others in anticipation of what was about to unfold. Melania finally leaned forward, adjusting her posture in a way that signaled she was ready to speak. When she did, her voice was calm, steady, and yet razor-sharp. You do not care about the things I have done or continue to do. Instead, you invite me here to talk about my husband in the way you want him to be seen." The audience went silent. The host's smirk wavered, their body language shifting as they realized the conversation was no longer under their control. "I married a man who is strong, a man who is a fighter," she continued, her expression unwavering. "And I see now that the real scandal is not what you say about him. It is how desperate you are to make people believe it." A murmur spread across the room, this time louder, more animated. The host, momentarily caught off guard, opened their mouth to interject, but Melania wasn't finished. "You ask if I regret standing by my husband?" She leaned back slightly, her hands resting effortlessly in her lap. "I think the real question should be, why is the media so afraid of him that they must attack even his wife?" And just like that, the tables had turned. The moment the question left the host's lips, the atmosphere in the studio shifted. The air was thick with tension, the kind that made even the most seasoned audience members sit up in their seats. The host, fully expecting hesitation or a carefully rehearsed diplomatic answer, leaned forward slightly, their expression smug. But Melania didn't give them that satisfaction. Instead, she took a brief pause, just long enough to let the weight of the question settle in the air. Then, with the kind of poise and control that had defined her public image for years, she smiled. Calm, deliberate, unwavering. "You see," she began, her accent giving each word a sharp, precise edge. "This is exactly what is wrong with today's media." The room, already holding its breath, seemed to go even quieter. The host's smirk faltered just slightly as if sensing they had miscalculated. "You do not ask about my work. You do not ask about my initiatives to help children, my advocacy, or the causes I have supported. Instead, you bring me here to talk badly about my husband." The audience reaction was immediate. A low murmur spread across the room, a mix of shock and admiration. The host, momentarily thrown off, attempted to interject, but Melania continued, her voice steady, her expression composed. "Donald is a strong man, a fighter, and unlike many in the media, he does not hide behind false narratives or personal attacks. He fights for the American people, and I stand by him, proudly." The words landed like a hammer. A few scattered claps broke out from the audience, quickly growing into a wave of applause. The host, clearly flustered, attempted to regain control. "Well, Melania, the reason I ask is because many people feel that—" But she didn't let them finish. She simply tilted her head slightly, as if amused by the attempt to steer the conversation back into familiar territory. "Many people," she repeated, her tone making it clear she had heard that phrase one too many times. "Or just the people you choose to listen to." The host's expression tightened. They opened their mouth to respond, but it was too late. The moment had passed. The balance of power in the room had shifted completely. The audience, now fully engaged, could see what had just happened. Melania Trump had done what few could. She had calmly, effortlessly dismantled a loaded, agenda-driven question in real time, exposing it for exactly what it was. She hadn't raised her voice, hadn't resorted to theatrics, yet she had managed to turn the entire moment against the interviewer. And as the applause grew louder, as the clip began making its way across social media in real time, one thing became clear. The media had underestimated her, and now they were the ones scrambling for control. The clip spread like wildfire. Within minutes of airing, it was everywhere, shared, retweeted, and dissected by political analysts and everyday Americans alike. Conservative commentators praised Melania's calm yet forceful response, calling it one of the most stunning media takedowns in recent history. "She didn't just defend herself," one commentator wrote. "She exposed the media's bias in real time, and she did it with class." Memes flooded the internet, highlighting the host's stunned expression, the shift in their body language as they lost control of the conversation. The hashtag #Melania owns the media trended nationwide. On the other side, liberal pundits scrambled to reframe the narrative. Some insisted the host question was fair, arguing that Melania should have expected tough inquiries given her association with Donald Trump. Others, however, privately admitted that the exchange had not gone as planned. "She handled that better than anyone expected," one journalist conceded on a late-night panel. "She didn't just sidestep the question. She turned it back on the media, and it worked. Damage control was swift, with certain outlets trying to downplay the significance of the moment, while others subtly criticized the host for pushing too hard, too fast. In the days that followed, political talk shows debated what the moment meant. Some saw it as proof that Melania Trump was more politically savvy than she had been given credit for, someone who, despite her reserved nature, could hold her own in the ruthless world of media and politics. Others speculated whether this signaled a more public role for her as the 2024 election loomed. Would she step forward in a way she hadn't before? Would she become more vocal in defending her husband against what she clearly saw as media bias? Theories swirled, and every news cycle seemed to return to that one moment. The moment a liberal host had attempted to corner Melania Trump and had instead found themselves backed into a corner. For Trump supporters, the interview became proof of what they had long believed, that the media wasn't interested in fairness, that they were always looking for a gotcha moment, always waiting for a misstep. But this time, the misstep wasn't Melania's. It was the media's. Conservative news outlets played the clip repeatedly, celebrating how she had managed to flip the script without raising her voice, without resorting to insults or theatrics. It was, they said, the perfect example of grace under fire. Perhaps the most telling reaction, however, was from the host themselves. In the days that followed, they avoided discussing the interview in depth, offering only a vague comment about how interviews don't always go as expected. It was a quiet admission of defeat. The moment had slipped from their control, and no amount of spin could change that. The damage was done, and for millions of Americans, Melania Trump had just proven once again why the media had underestimated her. This moment was never just about an interview. It wasn't just another viral clip or another instance of a conservative figure pushing back against the media. It was something much bigger. It was a direct, undeniable example of how the media operates, how they craft narratives, how they frame questions to trap their subjects, how they disguise hostility as journalism. For years, the mainstream press had painted Melania Trump as distant, uninvolved, even indifferent to the political machine surrounding her. But in just a few sentences, she shattered that perception. She didn't just defend herself or her husband. She turned the entire moment into an indictment of the very media machine that had tried to corner her. For millions of Americans watching, it was confirmation of what they had suspected all along. The media wasn't interested in fairness, nor were they concerned with giving conservatives a platform to speak honestly. Instead, they were obsessed with tearing down anyone associated with Donald Trump, using loaded questions and selective outrage to manufacture controversy. But Melania refused to play along. She didn't react emotionally. She didn't take the bait. She calmly and methodically exposed the hypocrisy, putting the entire industry on trial in front of a live audience. And with the 2024 election approaching, the timing of this moment couldn't have been more significant. It sent a clear message. The Trump family isn't backing down. No matter how many times the media tries to corner them, no matter how often they twist narratives, the strategy won't work anymore. The playbook is outdated, the tactics transparent. Melania's response resonated not just because it was a strong defense of her husband, but because it was a direct challenge to the system itself. The reaction from the public was telling. Conservatives rallied around her, seeing her as a powerful force who had once again highlighted the double standards of the press. Independents, many of whom had grown weary of media manipulation, saw an unfiltered moment of truth. Even some liberals quietly admitted that the exchange had been a miscalculation, that the host had overplayed their hand and been caught in their own trap. The mainstream media, always quick to spin unfavorable moments, struggled to regain control of the narrative. This wasn't just about Melania Trump. It was about the larger war between the media and the conservative movement. It was about the frustration millions of Americans feel every time they see double standards in reporting, every time they watch journalists attack one political figure while protecting another. It was about trust. Trust in the press, trust in narratives, trust in the very institutions that claim to serve the public. And in that moment, Melania Trump did something remarkable. She didn't just answer a question. She forced an entire industry to reveal itself, proving once again that the fight for truth in media is far from over. So what do you think? Did Melania Trump just expose the media's bias in real time? Or was this just another example of the press trying to twist a narrative? Her response was sharp, controlled, and impossible to ignore, leaving the host scrambling and the audience stunned. Moments like these remind us why the battle against misinformation and media manipulation is more important than ever. If you stand with Melania and believe she handled that interview flawlessly, drop a fire emoji in the comments. Do you think the media has gone too far in its bias, or was this just another failed attempt to corner a Trump? Let me know your thoughts below. And if you want to stay updated on more political showdowns, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We're here to bring you the truth, unfiltered and unedited, because the mainstream media won't. Stay tuned, stay informed, and remember, they don't want you to see moments like this, but we're making sure you do. 100%.